Ever feel like you're stuck in a system that's rigged against you?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys feel that way.
Especially, when it comes to things like marriage and family courts.
Right.
Like you're playing a game where the rules are constantly changing and you're always one step behind.
Exactly.
That's what we're diving into today.
Sounds interesting.
Conrad Riker's book, The Illusion of Equality.
Ah, okay.
He really pulls back the curtain on how these institutions that we think are there to protect us
Mm.
could actually be working against us.
Yeah, he's got some pretty provocative ideas.
He calls it the marriage plantation.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful metaphor.
It is. And it's something I think a lot of guys in the red pill community can relate to.
Hmm.
You work hard, you provide for your family,
Right.
but you always feel like you're walking on eggshells.
Like one wrong move and you could lose everything.
Exactly.
That's what Riker's getting at.
So let's unpack this marriage plantation idea.
Mhm.
What exactly is he pointing to?
Well, he argues that historically, marriage served a specific purpose.
Okay.
It was a system to regulate property and inheritance.
Right.
But as societal norms evolved, the
Mhm.
original purpose of marriage, it kind of got lost,
Okay.
leaving men vulnerable
Vulnerable too.
to a system that, doesn't really serve their best interests anymore.
He's not saying all marriages are bad.
Yeah, no.
It's more about like awareness.
Yeah, awareness,
Yeah.
being informed, going into it with your eyes wide open.
Understanding the risks.
Exactly.
Oh.
He really advocates for men to be more informed about the financial implications of marriage,
Mm.
understanding those risks.
Yeah.
And, things like prenuptial agreements to protect their interests.
Okay, so being proactive.
No.
Understanding the system before you get caught in it.
Right. He even suggests considering alternative relationship structures, like
yeah.
domestic partnerships, cohabitation,
Mhm.
things that might offer more flexibility, less risk.
Okay, so that's for guys who are thinking about getting married.
Right.
But what about those who are already married? I mean, a lot of guys in the red pill community are dealing with, the fallout of divorce, custody battles, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and Riker, he doesn't hold back when it comes to family courts.
Right.
He argues that they often operate with a built-in bias against men.
Wow.
And he backs it up with some pretty intense anecdotes from his own legal practice.
Like what kind of anecdotes? What are we talking about here?
Stories of fathers losing custody even though they're loving and involved parents,
Jeez.
facing false accusations, just really devastating stuff.
That's tough to hear, but it's a reality that a lot of men face.
It
It
is.
feels like the system is rigged against them.
And Riker, he argues that family courts, they often prioritize the mother's well-being over the father's rights.
Okay.
And he really challenges this idea that these courts are actually impartial.
So what's the solution? I mean, how can men protect themselves in a system that seems, designed to work against them?
Well, Riker is really big on men being more assertive,
Okay.
advocating for their rights, both within their marriage
Mm.
and in the legal system. He encourages men to document everything.
Okay.
Seek legal counsel early on. Don't be afraid to challenge unfair rulings.
So it's about taking control, not being passive, fighting for what's rightfully yours. It's a tough message, but it might be a necessary one.
It is, and it ties into his broader argument about the need for men to reclaim their masculinity in a world that seems increasingly hostile to traditional male values.
Let's talk about that. He uses this phrase, female supremacy,
Right.
which is, a pretty loaded term. What exactly does he mean by that?
He's not talking about some literal matriarchy, but
Right.
more like a subtle shift in power dynamics,
Okay.
where women hold a disproportionate amount of influence in society,
In what areas?
education, media, the legal system.
So he's saying that the traditional roles, the expectations of men are being eroded.
Exactly. And he connects this to the rise of feminist ideology, which he argues has kind of strayed from its original goal of equality and has become more focused on gaining power, advantage over men.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. He's challenging the very foundations of what we've been taught to believe about gender roles, about power structures.
He is. He argues that this concept of toxic masculinity
Right.
has been weaponized
Weaponized.
to pathologize normal male behavior, making men feel ashamed of their natural instincts.
I see that playing out all the time. Men are told to be more sensitive, more emotional, more like women. But then they're punished for showing those same qualities.
It's a double bind.
Yeah.
Riker calls it the illusion of vulnerability. He argues that society demands men to be emotionally open, but then judges them as weak when they show that vulnerability.
Didn't he use Ernest Hemingway as an example of that?
Exactly. Hemingway, he was a man who, battled his own demons.
Right.
But he channeled that resilience, that strength into his writing, achieved literary greatness.
Yeah.
And Riker's point is, true strength, it doesn't mean hiding your vulnerability. It's about using it as fuel to overcome challenges.
So it's not about denying your emotions. It's about understanding them, using them to your advantage. That's a powerful message, and I think it's something a lot of guys in the red pill community need to hear.
Absolutely. He's saying it's okay to be strong, assertive, to be a leader, a protector.
Right.
But it's also okay to be vulnerable, to express your emotions, seek support when you need it.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Between strength and vulnerability, traditional masculinity and modern sensibilities.
It is. And recognizing that the rules of the game have changed and that men need to adapt if they want to thrive in this new world.
One area where Riker sees men being particularly disadvantaged is in the education system.
Right.
He talks about the feminization of education. What does he mean by that?
He argues that schools have become increasingly hostile to boys.
Okay.
There's a lack of male role models and a curriculum that often favors girls' learning styles.
I've heard a lot of guys talk about feeling alienated in school, like they were being punished for just, being boys.
And Riker points to the overprescription of medications like Ritalin for boys, arguing that it's a way to pathologize normal male energy and force them to conform to a more feminine ideal.
It's like they're being told that their natural way of being is wrong, and they need to be, medicated to fit in.
Right. And he believes that this has a detrimental effect on boys' self-esteem and their ability to succeed in life. He argues that boys need male mentors, more hands-on learning experiences, a curriculum that celebrates their unique strengths.
So it's about creating an environment where boys can thrive.
Exactly.
Not one where they're constantly being told to suppress their natural instincts.
Right. He's calling for a reevaluation of how we educate boys.
Yeah.
And he believes it's crucial for the future of masculinity.
So we've talked about marriage, family courts, education. What about fatherhood? How does Riker see the role of fathers in, this new world he's describing?
He argues that fatherhood is crucial for child development.
Okay.
But that the current system, it often works against fathers, making it difficult for them to be fully present and involved in their children's lives.
A lot of guys feel like they're being pushed out of their children's lives, either through divorce or just societal pressures that minimize the importance of fathers.
And Riker challenges that. He argues that fathers, they bring a unique and essential perspective to parenting.
Okay.
And that children, they need both a mother and a father to develop properly.
So he's saying that fathers provide not just financial support, but also emotional guidance.
Exactly.
Discipline, a role model for their children.
Yeah, all of that. And he believes that society needs to recognize the value of fathers and create structures that support their involvement in their children's lives.
So what does this all mean for, the average guy who's trying to navigate this complex world? What's Riker's ultimate message?
He's calling for men to reclaim their authority, to take control of their lives, and to fight for their rights. He believes that men have been sold a lie about equality and that they need to wake up to the reality of the situation.
It's a powerful message, and it's one that's resonating with a lot of men. And we're only scratching the surface here.
Oh, yeah. There's so much more to unpack in Riker's book, especially when it comes to his analysis of the manosphere and his advice for men on dating and relationships.
We'll dive into those topics in our next episode. But for now, we want to give you a taste of what Riker has to offer.
His book is a call to action for men who are ready to take the red pill, understand the game, and reclaim their power.
If you're feeling lost, confused, or frustrated with the current state of affairs, I highly recommend checking out The Illusion of Equality.
You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books. It might just be the wake-up call you need. So, we talked last time about how Riker sees marriage and these family courts.
Yeah, some pretty heavy stuff.
It is. But he also dives into this whole concept of the manosphere, right? And he sees it as like this natural reaction to what we've been talking about.
Like men feeling pushed aside.
Yeah, marginalized, misunderstood.
Okay.
And, it's interesting because he frames it in this historical context.
Okay.
He argues that throughout history, men have always had their own spaces, fraternities, men's clubs, or even, just gathering around a campfire,
Okay.
sharing stories, building bonds.
Right, right. But those spaces, they seem to be shrinking.
Exactly. And Riker, he sees that as a problem.
Why?
He argues that these male-only spaces, they served a vital purpose.
What do you mean?
They allowed men to connect with their masculinity, to learn from each other, to develop this sense of camaraderie, brotherhood.
Like that shared experience is getting lost.
Exactly. Like that understanding of what it means to be a man
Right.
in a world that's, increasingly focused on individualism, gender neutrality.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
And he believes that the loss of these male spaces, it's actually contributed to this crisis of masculinity that we're seeing today.
Men are feeling isolated.
Isolated, confused, unsure of their place in the world.
So the manosphere is like an attempt to recreate those lost spaces.
In a way, yeah.
But in the digital realm.
Exactly. It's a way for men to find community, support, guidance.
Okay.
In a world that often seems hostile to their needs, their perspectives.
But it's not all just like social and cultural stuff, right?
Right. Riker, he also dives into the legal realm.
Okay.
And he argues that the legal system itself, it's often weaponized against men.
He really goes hard on family courts, doesn't he?
He does. He sees this playing out in numerous areas, but particularly in family courts.
Right. He even uses the term war on men, which is a pretty strong statement.
It is.
What evidence does he offer to back that up?
Well, he points to a number of factors.
Yeah.
The prevalence of false accusations,
Okay.
the ease with which women can obtain restraining orders against men, and just this often unequal application of laws related to domestic violence, child support.
It's like a no-win situation for a lot of guys.
They can feel that way.
They're afraid to speak out, defend themselves for fear of, being labeled as abusers.
Deadbeat dads.
Exactly.
And Riker argues that this fear, it's often exploited.
Exploited. By who?
By women who know how to use the legal system to their advantage.
It's a sobering thought, but it's something that I know a lot of men in the red pill community, they're talking about it.
They are.
They feel like the system is rigged against them.
Yeah.
And they're looking for ways to protect themselves.
And that's where Riker's advice, it comes in.
What does he say?
Be proactive. Document everything. Seek legal counsel early on. Understand your rights.
So it's about being informed.
Informed, prepared, not just, hoping for the best.
Right, right. He also talks about having a strong support system, doesn't he?
He does.
Like family, friends, other men who understand what you're going through.
Yeah, that's huge. He says there's strength in numbers.
Absolutely. And that's something that, the manosphere can provide. That sense of community, shared purpose.
For men who feel like they're fighting an uphill battle.
Now, Riker also dives into another controversial topic.
Which is?
Pornography.
Ah, yeah.
And he seems particularly concerned about its impact on men.
He is. He argues that pornography, it creates these unrealistic expectations for men.
Unrealistic in what way?
In terms of physical appearance, sexual performance.
Right, like it sets up these impossible standards.
Exactly. And he believes that this can lead to, feelings of inadequacy, anxiety.
Depression, even.
Yeah, potentially. He also argues that pornography often desensitizes men to violence and aggression, which can have negative consequences in their real-life relationships.
Like it distorts their perception of what healthy intimacy looks like.
Exactly. Now, he's not necessarily advocating for censorship.
Okay.
But he does believe that men need to be more aware of the potential harms of pornography consumption.
Okay.
And to make conscious choices about what they watch.
So it's about being mindful.
Mindful of the content you consume, yeah. And understanding its potential impact on your psyche.
He even suggests exploring alternative forms of erotic expression.
Right, he does, like erotica, sensual massage, things that focus on intimacy, connection.
Rather than just visual stimulation.
Exactly. It's about, reclaiming your sexuality, defining it on your own terms.
And that ties into his, broader argument about men reclaiming their masculinity.
Right.
In a world that often seems to be trying to erase it.
Now, he offers some pretty specific advice for men on how to navigate this new world, particularly when it comes to dating and relationships.
Right. This is a big topic in the red pill community.
It is. Guys they're looking for ways to connect with women in a world where the traditional rules of dating, they seem to have, gone out the window.
Yeah, it's a whole new landscape. What does he say?
Well, he outlines what he calls red pill dating,
Okay.
which is essentially a set of strategies
Strategies for?
designed to help men understand female psychology
Okay.
and increase their chances of success in the dating market.
So it's about, like, understanding the game.
In a way, yeah. Riker's advice is based on this idea that women, they're attracted to men who display certain qualities.
Like?
Confidence, assertiveness, a sense of purpose. He even talks about creating a sense of dread in a woman.
Dread. What does he mean by that?
Meaning making her worry about losing you as a way to maintain attraction.
Some might see that as, manipulative.
Sure. But he's really just talking about understanding the psychology of attraction.
So it's not about playing games.
No.
It's about, like, understanding the dynamic.
The dynamics at play in modern dating, yeah.
He also emphasizes setting boundaries.
Right. He does. Not being afraid to walk away from situations that aren't serving you.
Okay.
Understanding your own value.
So it's about approaching dating from a position of strength.
Strength, not desperation.
Knowing what you want.
Not settling for less.
Riker, he doesn't shy away from controversial topics.
He doesn't. And that includes his views on circumcision.
Right. He's very critical of the practice, isn't he?
He is. He calls it a form of mutilation.
Wow.
That has no medical justification. He sees it as a violation of a man's bodily autonomy and believes that it's often done without informed consent.
It's a sensitive topic, but it's one that Riker clearly feels strongly about.
He does. He believes that it's time to challenge the societal norms that have led to this widespread acceptance of circumcision.
He sees it as part of this broader pattern
of disrespect and disregard for men's bodies, their rights.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The manosphere, the legal system, pornography, dating, even circumcision.
Yeah, we have.
What's the common thread running through all of these topics?
I think it's about empowerment.
Empowerment.
Riker, he wants men to understand the forces that are working against them, to take control of their own lives, and to create a world where they can thrive. He's not just pointing out problems.
He's offering solutions.
Exactly. He's providing a roadmap for men who are ready to take the red pill, to embrace their masculinity, and to fight for their rightful place in the world.
We've spent a lot of time in this deep dive talking about some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of challenges, facing men today.
The legal system, pornography, even circumcision. But Riker, he doesn't just leave us hanging, right?
No, he doesn't. He actually offers, a path forward.
Okay, a path forward for men to reclaim their power, create a better, more fulfilling life.
That's what's, I think, so compelling about his book. It's not just a critique, right? It's a call to action. He wants men to wake up, shake off that complacency and start building a better future for themselves and their sons.
He uses this term, a peaceful revolution. It's like a shift in consciousness.
Yeah.
Where men, they recognize their inherent worth.
Yeah.
And they refuse to be marginalized any longer.
Right. It's about taking a stand. But what does that look like? Practically, what are the steps?
Well, he talks a lot about self-improvement.
Okay. What kind of self-improvement?
He's a big believer in physical fitness, mental toughness.
Right.
Developing skills that make you valuable.
In the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about being strong.
Strong physically, mentally.
To thrive in a world that, can often feel hostile.
Right. It's about taking responsibility. Yeah.
Not waiting for someone else to hand you, this fulfilling life.
You got to create it yourself.
Exactly. He really emphasizes discipline, hard work.
Commitment to excellence. So it's about becoming the best version of yourself.
The best version of yourself, yeah. Not just for yourself, but for, your family.
The community.
The future of masculinity itself.
He also talks about building strong communities, right?
He does, forming bonds with other men.
Yeah.
Men who share your values.
Yeah.
Support your journey.
He sees the decline of those traditional male spaces as a major factor in this whole crisis of masculinity.
Absolutely. So it's about, finding those spaces where you can connect with other men, share experiences, learn from each other, whether it's a men's group, a sports team, or just, a regular gathering of friends.
These bonds, they're crucial.
Crucial. He argues that men, they need those spaces to develop that sense of brotherhood.
To learn how to be leaders. Exactly. And to pass on those values
Right.
of traditional masculinity to the next generation.
So it's almost like creating a counterculture,
A movement.
a movement of men who are committed to reclaiming their rightful place in the world.
And that movement, it starts with education.
Okay.
Riker, he believes that we need to rethink
Rethink
how we raise and educate boys.
Okay.
To instill in them that sense of pride in their masculinity and equip them with the tools they need to navigate the challenges of modern life.
He's advocating for a return to more traditional models of education,
In a way, yeah. Where boys are encouraged to be active, competitive, assertive.
where they have strong male role models to guide them.
Exactly. He believes that it's essential for developing their character, their leadership potential.
Their sense of purpose. So it's not just about individual self-improvement, right?
Right.
It's about creating a better world for future generations of men.
It's about leaving a legacy. Riker, he envisions a society where men and women, they can coexist in harmony,
Okay.
each respecting, the other's strengths, contributions.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also very clear that for that to happen,
Yeah.
men need to reclaim their authority, their agency, their sense of purpose.
It's a powerful message. And I think it's one that's resonating with more and more men every day.
I think so too. There's this growing awareness
Yeah.
that something is amiss, that men have been, sold this false promise of equality, and that it's time to start fighting back.
Riker's book, it's a wake-up call.
It is.
It's a guidebook for men who are ready to take that red pill
To embrace their masculinity and to create a better future.
for themselves and for generations to come.
Oh, yeah, exactly. If you're ready to join that fight, to reclaim your masculinity, to build a world where men can thrive, I highly recommend picking up a copy of The Illusion of Equality.
You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
It might just be the most important book you ever read.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep fighting for what you believe in.